Hello again, Steve here with a few comments for anyone who might feel a little bit left behind with no work and feeling a little bit desperate because of high unemployment rates in certain. I'm speaking mostly to the youth in some places in America and around the world who have been left behind by, well, the socialist policies designed ostensibly to help people get work, which always end in failure and high unemployment. The thing is that we've been taught by a Prussian education system to be basically automatrons, to work in factories and become soldiers. We sit in public schools for 13 years and are taught by people who have sat in similar queues for longer than that, in rows with a blackboard, which hasn't, it was, I think it's gone from a blackboard to a whiteboard in 100 years. That's about the only change, except that the teachers have generally gotten dumber. And, a bell rings and we rush from one to the next and so on. I mean, it's basically the same as the military or the army or a prison cell or something like that. It's not about education at all. And we come out after all those years completely unqualified to do anything. So it's no wonder that after a while of generations of this, there's going to be a certain number of people who are going to be depressed. And when national debts are racked up and up and up and up, and costs and permits and all this sort of stuff is added to it, eventually it stifles the economy. But need not worry in a way, because it is what it is, right? We live in the world we live in with a bunch of psychos running the show. But we can still effect the greatest amount of control over the greatest tool in the world, really, which is ourselves, right? Our own physicality. And we can go to work. You can go to work tomorrow. If you're unemployed, you can go to work tomorrow in a way. Because you can take inventory, you can take stock of what it is that you're good at. Everybody's good at something or somewhat good at something. Everybody, right? And the thing is, often we think inside of a box, right? We think that we have to have this social security number, we have to have this social insurance number, we have to produce this and produce that, and we have to show up and we have to look for jobs that are listed, and we have to go through interviews and all of that stuff. We have not been taught to think outside the box. And I ran into a guy, I may have mentioned it in another video here, but I ran into a guy a while back who was basically self-taught on the streets of Montreal on how to sell flowers outside of churches at 5 years old because he was starving, basically. And he learned a lot of street smarts. And he told me one time that he was in Kelowna, BC, didn't have a job, but he needed a job. So he just went to work one day. He found the place he wanted to work at. It happened to be a hotel. And he just showed up one day and he started working. He started cleaning up the grounds. He started trimming the edges. He started carrying people's bags. He got dressed up and he just started carrying people's bags from their cars to the hotel and so on. And this went on for a while. And some of the workers, after a while, just thought he was working there. And after a couple of weeks, the owner, who'd been away or whatever, came back. And he was walking around and he saw this guy working, doing a really good job. Like the counter staff and everything loved this guy. Everything they asked him to do, he could do it. He'd run around and he had energy and enthusiasm. And wasn't getting paid a penny for it. But hey, he would have been sitting at home otherwise, and he was enjoying what he was doing. But the owner came out and asked him one time. No, the owner went and asked the office or the desk staff, "Who is this guy?" And they said, "Well, he's been working here for a couple of weeks. His name is whatever, right? His name is." And so the boss went out and talked to him, and guess what the boss did? Now, he might not have done this, but he's an entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneurs like people who produce something. He hired the guy, right? No interview, or maybe there was a summary interview, but this guy did everything different. He didn't go to an ad in the newspaper and say, because there was no ad posted. Every employer needs people that I've ever been with. I've never gotten a job with a resume, and I've gotten many, many good jobs. I create my own jobs. But even when I was younger, I found that I could put out hundreds of resumes and never got a job. I'd do things differently. I'd find out who was the mover and shaker in the organization, whatever, send them a personal letter with a handwritten note, and a real live postage stamp, and it would go straight to him. If you send it to the human resources, it usually goes right into the waste paper basket, or the recycle bin these days, I guess. And also, a flyer of what it is that you do is better than a resume. In other words, a resume is telling people about you and about your experience and so on. You want to really show what it is that you can do for them, not what you have done. Because everybody has problems they want to solve, right? And that's the old entrepreneurial adage in a way, look for problems. So it's really about thinking outside the box, but inventorying what it is that you can do and packaging them in such a way in your mind that's a benefit to the other person, and become a mind that looks for problems. I mean, that may sound kind of negative, but but we all have them, right? And no matter how rich somebody is, no matter how successful somebody's business is, they have problems constantly. I mean, I have one customer who, it's every time I show up, there's 100 things that need to be done because nobody can do them in the way that I do them. So it's just, and this is not a job through a resume or anything like that. It's just something that I picked up one time, and it just continues on and on. So think of that. Think of that if you are unemployed. You don't have to get something from the newspaper or the employment center or whatever. Just think in terms of every employment situation. It doesn't have to be a business. It can be a homeowner who needs something fixed, some gardening done, some computer fixed, some network problem. It can be many different things. And after a while, you only need a few good customers. You have a few good customers, and they see that you don't necessarily have to do the best work in the world. But if you're loyal, and you love what you do, and you show up on time, I mean, most people don't even do that. Then you're miles ahead already. So that's just some thoughts, because it is so important to our psyche, in terms of our health, in terms of our inner genie, if you will, in terms of us being able to grow, is to have some sort of labor of love. Even if it's not the ultimate one, at least we get something to get up for and strive for. And if we're not getting paid anyway, why not just go and start doing it? Whatever it is that you're good at, if you become habitual you're in a store and you know how to fix electronics, and you see that the cash register isn't quite working, you say, hey, do you know how to fix that? Or something's falling down here. Pick it up and fix it, straighten it. Just, get in the habit of that. And also recognize what it is that you like to do and where do you like to work. If it's a company you want to work with, you don't have to be an employee. You can be a contractor. You can be a contractor. You can be called in once in a while because you're a specialist. You can be a specialist. You're better than others, and you love it. You love doing certain things. You could be a musical person. Play guitar and sing. It drives me nuts. I don't know how many coffee shops I go to, and there's a perfectly good corner in the evening where somebody can be sitting playing a guitar. Why coffee shop owners don't do that is beyond me. I mean, give a local guy who loves to play guitar, free coffee and donuts or something for the evening, and notice how many more come in and start to, why isn't that a great symbiotic relationship? Or it doesn't have to be a musician. It could be a juggler. It could be somebody who knows how to build birdhouses. That's my my favorite little analogy. Or just some sort of a craft. Imagine if there's a craftsperson comes in with a hammer and nail and a saw and sits up in the corner. So often people go in those places, they chit chat. They're kind of bored. You can see these, these Tinder dates going on in these little restaurants and coffee shops, and they're a little bit bored actually. But if there was something going on, they'd turn and listen. There is one place I notice, and I don't know why others don't do it. There's a bookstore that has a small, in the place that I live, in the area that I live. It's a bookstore with a coffee shop attached to it. And I think on Saturday night, sometimes they have people come in and play. It might be just a guy sitting on a soapbox playing a guitar or whatever. And the place is packed. And people, they actually have to take reservations, right? But it could be all kinds of things like that. And they'd be fun. If you're a jokester, how about go and, offer to be the local comedian for a night here and there? Or if you know how to do a public speech, and you can go around and give presentations here and there. And not only that, you see, once we start doing stuff like that, we become a little bit more public. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge for some people. But that can be overcome because there are training exercises such as the Energy Project, such as Toastmasters and so on, which help people with their fears, anxieties, and so on to become more confident. But a lot of it, that's what it is. I mean, there's a lot of damaged families and so on, and a lot of dysfunction in families, and it ends up affecting people right into their adulthood. But that sort of stuff it can never not be, it's like a scar, it can't necessarily be removed, but it can be improved upon, and we can go forward in spite of our past. But the biggest thing is, if you are unemployed, start working. Start doing something on a daily basis. Get into a routine. And think in terms of problems. Think in terms of producing value. Like, produce value. And in time, the value is reciprocated. If you think about it, that's all payment for a job is or whatever. Unless you're some sort of a government job which doesn't produce anything. In the real world, in the real productive world, the only reason why somebody's going to hire you is because they're going to get something out of the deal, and then it's worthwhile for them to pay you because they're getting back that extra, right? It's like if you buy something wholesale and sell it retail, they're buying your wage, they're buying your time wholesale, and they're selling it retail. That's how it works, right? It's just the reality. But think in terms of that. Think in terms of how can you create value with what you have. And if it takes extra practice to get better at it, there's no better place than out there in the marketplace. Just hit it. And if you need the extra confidence boost, consider organizations like Toastmasters. Consider the Energy Project with yours truly. And, get productive. You'll feel a lot better. And you won't have this worry anymore so much of, where am I going to get a job? Where am I going to get some money? Etc., etc. It is a beautiful thing. Labor of love. It's part of what we need as human beings. We need food, we need air, we need love in some ways, otherwise we suffer. We need a labor of love too. We need to be active. We're meant to be active. And it'll create such value in your own life. I'm going to guess very strongly. Steve here again, great chatting. Talk again soon. Bye for now.